What was the worst pain you have ever felt? Probably not as bad as a lot of other people's, but my first semester in college I got the flu and a double ear infection simultaneously. I couldn't keep anything down, including painkillers or antibiotics. Every time I threw up, the pressure made it feel like someone was pushing flaming pool balls out of my ears. Gallstones. Blood clots in my lungs. 8 of them. Felt like my chest was caving in on me and I was dying very slowly. Close second was getting my nipples pierced, but that pain was short-lived. Made out with a jellyfish while ducking under a crashing wave in waist-high water. Its tentacles had covered my entire face and both my eyes also got stung. I couldn't see for a couple days and for some reason the tear ducts were constantly secreting liquid. In the process of removing it, I got stung on both my hands, wrists and arms. It was not a good day at the beach. I had a hernia that turned into an infection. Basically my innie turned into an outie. Being 16 and invincible, I ignored it for a few days until I couldn't walk anymore. It was the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. I had my mom take me to the hospital. They put me into emergency surgery, and after waking up in the middle of surgery and having to be put back under, I awoke in a hospital bed with no belly button. Gods, I was strong then. This whole thread makes me feel like a privileged butthead. I've never felt excruciating pain. I have gone through natural childbirth twice, and the worst pain that I have ever felt was when I threw my back out. Constant searing pain with every movement. At least contractions give you breaks. Not physical pain so much. But I had a major anxiety, depression breakdown where I couldn't eat for a week. Was crying so much that my tears gave me a rash. Literally couldn't force myself up off the bed floor sometimes. Couldn't escape thoughts of suicide for even 10 minutes. And lost the ability to want anything whatsoever. I felt like I couldn't scream hard enough to express what I was going through. No matter how long and loud and raw I cried. I checked myself into the hospital for a bit. Started therapy and meds. Quit and moved back home. Started exercising and eating better. Got back to work. And I'm doing okay now. I'm actually moving out of my mom's house and into my own place next week. My stepbrother had killed himself, and when my mom told me, it felt as though my heart was literally being ripped out of my chest. When I think about the day she told me, I can still feel that pain. Cluster migraines. I seriously wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. Shingles. Had it on some parts of my back and abdomen. Every time you move feels like you're being stabbed to death by needles slowly. Considering it's in the nerves. The first few days was like complete hell. Taking a bath and cleaning that infected part was so nasty. Not mention it has blisters too. A cluster of them. It healed after a few weeks. But still, that pain. I hope that I don't get them again. I still have scars to remember that hellish experience. The only thing that it's weird though is that I was 14 when I got. From what I heard is that is usually occurs to elderly people. Canal route without an injection. Having my nail bed scraped to clean it after gauze was removed. The nail was removed in surgery. It was pretty much sandpaper on an open wound. I cut my thumb off in the same incident, and that pain was 1/10 compared to my other finger that only had the nail pop off. Nurse said shouldn't hurt. You nurse. Watching my mom die. Cancer for a year. Oh yeah, I had spinal fusion when I was 14. It was 10 and 7 years ago. I gave birth to breech 6 moths preemies who died within hours. One required my cervix being cut to save my life and then being sewed up while I screamed bloody grieving murder. But seriously, that was nothing compared to my mom's death. I'd relive it all to have my mom back. Once in 11th grade one felt a small discomfort from a gas build-up, and so I went until lunch to relieve myself. No way I'm going to be the dude who stank up the whole classroom and deafened the class, and nothing happened until 10 seconds later. It felt like my guts were trying to expand out of my torso and I couldn't move. I tried to get up and pulled my pants up and then fall down as it got worse. Tried calling for help, but my voice didn't want to work and was more focused on making pain grunts. It took until one of my friends in 5th period, we have 5 classes a day and lunches after the 3rd, said where's op. I saw him at lunch. They checked the sign out sheet, note didn't go home, so where? They looked first in the bathroom, thank God, and found me making his awful pain grunts as my guts inflated. Then one of the teachers had to get the principal to get the special stall unlocked for when a holes lock the stall, and then slide under to get out and help me to a chair and get me into my mom's car. I was then taken me to the where I then had the gas expelled, and now when I need to let one rip I find a bathroom so I never have to be half carried out of a bathroom again. Accidentally clicked a concrete wall when I was about 7 while playing soccer barefoot. Smashed the 3rd, 4th, and 5th toes on my right foot along with a good portion of the nail on those toes, and it took around 1 month to fully recover. Ectopic pregnancy burst. They said it was the size of a softball. Luckily, I survived. Reconstructive tendon surgery on my hand. The local wasn't working and they couldn't give me any other anesthetic as I was hammered as f. The pain wasn't as bad as watching a guy pull 2 sides of a tendon out of the top of my hand and tie them together. Not gonna lie, that was pretty weird. A pinched sciatic nerve. I don't know if some of these other things are worse. I'd be interested to hear from people who experienced sciatic nerve issues and something worse. Inflamed appendix. That hurts so bad. Soccer ball kicked into the tip of my dick. Point blank defender versus striker. Best example I have is to flop your cock out on a solid workbench. Then get a hammer and firmly whack it on the tip once. I went down like a sack of shit. I tore a contact and scratched off a good portion of my cornea when I was a junior in high school. Any light at all sent me into a spiral of pain. My dad was convinced it was allergy, so he had me take like 4 Benadryl. I still didn't sleep. When he finally took me to the doctor the next day, they put the dye in my eye to see if it was scratch. Half my eye turned orange. I wore an eye patch for like a week. I've had double knee surgery, broken bones, scratched my eye, had a brick wall fall on me, and many other injuries. But nothing compares to that terrible feeling. I was absolutely screaming all night long. I would have these attacks from gallstones that would absolutely cripple me. My boss threatened to fire me if I didn't come to work. So I was bartending and it ruptured. I was already in pain, but it was like this wave of incredibly intense pain that I felt ringing in my ears, and then my whole body felt cold and I just hit the ground. Kidney stone. By far. Ugh. Same. I once fell 45 feet down an escalator. I've had cysts so bad, they contorted my ovaries. I've been pepper sprayed. I'll do all of those things a million times over before I have another kidney stone. Nothing compares to these things. My first one was at 17 and got stuck. I was in so much pain. I blacked out and puked all over the EMTs. I had a constant drip of Vicodin that didn't touch the pain, so they finally upped me to Dilaudid. 48+ hours of constant smack D before they realized I needed surgery. Wouldn't wish that shit on my worst enemy. 45 feet down an escalator. Except it was only a 15-foot escalator. I have had a leg amputated for gangrene, a heart attack, half my esophagus and stomach removed, cancer, and osteomyelitis of my spine. The worst pain was when they put a pressure cuff on the leg to measure blood flow. I broke the table and would have broken the doctor if he hadn't been so fast. Head-on car accident. I was in a little Toyota Yaris and he was in a big 4-wheel drive. I woke up in the ditch with searing pain in my neck that radiated down my arm, causing pins and needles and numbness. I also had very bad whiplash, including intense bruising. I would wake up every night with crushing chest pain. On top of that, I had a very bad concussion. When I was 7, I decided to go on a bike ride. Being the idiot I was, I thought I could go down a really steep road all by myself without supervision. This was just after I had learned to ride a bike. When I started to pick up speed, I thought I should stop my bike, but instead of putting my feet down and slowly come to a halt, my dumbass thought I'll just squeeze the brakes and the bike will stop. Instead, I went all the way down the road, crashed into someone's electrical box, and practically flew off my bike. I broke my right side of my femur. That wasn't even the most painful part though. That was when my dad found me and thought, yeah, he looks fine, and grabbed me by the arm to try and lift me off my feet. Obviously it hurt like hell. When I was 7 I read this as when I was 71, was happy to find a person on Reddit older than me, though I wondered why it took you so long to learn to ride a bike. I guess I should go ahead and get those reading glasses. Getting a baseball straight into my nuts. Getting a tooth pulled when the root of my tooth was curved under a different one. My worst pain by far was sciatica. It's the pain in your back that runs all the way down to your leg. I couldn't move, I couldn't sit up or walk without pain. I couldn't find a single position that didn't hurt like hell. It was hell for 2 days before it got somewhat better and I could move around without shooting pain. I think it was the first time that I was crying out in pain for an extended period of time, and Advil and other over-the-counter stuff didn't help at all. I got very little sleep during that time and it took several more days until I felt no pain again. Should have gone to the doctor or a chiropractor, but I didn't. If it happens again, I'm going to be dragging my sorry ass to one. I'm not going through that again. Just rolling over from my right side to my left was torture. Way worse than broken toes. Bruised ribs. Head cut open and skin peeled down. It was terrible. I wouldn't wish that kind of pain on anyone. Some people are saying kidney stones, and if they're worse than that, I don't even want to imagine it. Sepsis and then going into septic shock. It felt as if my blood was boiling. Chest tube being put in, or taken out, not sure. They both were equally awful. Falling 12-ish feet off of a playground onto my back when I was 12. Didn't break any ribs, but I couldn't run or bend over for a couple months. On the plus side, my abs got a little more defined because I was always flexing them involuntary from the back pain. Getting my ankle run over. I had an 8 pounds water-filled cyst inside of my body for over a year before they discovered that it was indeed a cyst. Did emergency surgery that next day. It was pushing on all of my internals and gave me the worst cramps ever. I could barely leave my bed some days. The copper coil. As someone whom is allergic to nickel and no one being able to confirm it was in the product, I had a horrible reaction and couldn't move due to vaginal nerve pain. 0 tenths would not recommend. Pancreatitis. TASD. But it was for a demonstration, so they taped the cables to my upper shoulder and lower back. 'Cause they wanted maximum contact. Breaking 3 middle fingers on left hand. You have 3 middle fingers? Ring, index, pointer. Username checks out. Infected abscess with a cellulitis cherry on top. I have arthritis in my spine. Just had a herniated disc replaced. I have had broken bones. Went through completely natural childbirth. Had a messed up uterus and gallbladder removed. Have had root canals and infected teeth. But thinking about having that open wound repacked twice a day before the infection healed makes me want to vomit. It felt like every nerve was on fire. I was in bed with intense pain for about 2 weeks. And it wasn't even MRSA. It is probably the reason I can tolerate my chronic pain now without opioids. So, I guess there is that. When I still had my ovaries, I would get cysts on them during a particularly stressful time in my life. There were a few instances of said cysts rupturing that happened to apparently be on the larger side. Gout. Hands down it's gout. Gallstones. Lots of them. Felt like I was being stabbed repeatedly right under my breastplate. 10 out of 10 worst physical pain I've ever been through. Going to the dentist and hear the doctor say this is only going to hurt a little bit. I thought I trusted him. Walking into my mother's house to find her dead on the couch. I've broken bones. I've split my head open. I've been in car accidents. Nothing compares to the literal pain I felt in my chest that day. Shingles. The nerve pain was so awful I was bedridden for a week. Also, you do not have to be old to get shingles. I was only 20. Getting a tooth drilled without enough Novocaine. Holding my father's cold hands asking him to please wake up after he had passed away. Physical. Kidney stones. 6 times. Emotional. The unexpected death of the first love of my life after just 2 years of knowing her. Took a long time to get over that sufficiently to move on. My coworker and I would go on a bike ride nearly every day. One day, I had a flat front tire and borrowed a wheel from another coworker. We were coasting down a long hill, when a Chevy Chevette coming uphill crossed so far over the double yellow line that it forced us both off onto the shoulder. I fish-tailed on the soft shoulder and almost got it back before hitting a stone wall and flipping the bike. I landed on exposed bedrock, breaking my L4 vertebrae and my right clavicle and splitting my helmet in two. My friend came up to me and declared that was an awesome crash. Then I tried to sit up, and that was the worst pain I ever felt in my life. An hour later, the woman I had been secretly dating showed up at the hospital, whereupon I, under the influence of narcotics, declared my undying love for her for all to hear. We married a year later. Dislocated my hip by busting it through the front of my pelvis, destroying part of my pelvis and tearing my hamstring 60% through, all in one swift motion.